Hello there, train fans. Tbone here at Tbone's Trains, continuing on the journey from my 1964 Marx train set oval to some new O-gauge fun. Today, I want to show you Surgery on the 999. I picked this loco pretty cheap on eBay, but when it came to me, it has a broken contactor plate. So here's my adventure for getting it back into running condition. Contactor plate was broken, cracked and in place. There's the old one. So once the wheels were removed and the motor plate, then opened it up just enough to slide out the broken pieces, slide in the new contactor, put it all back together, squeeze the wheels back on, and of course these push rods have these nice little tabs on the ends that made it extra tricky, but there's just enough room right about there to get in, get the puller pin to push on the end of the axle. Squeezing them back on, you can see that I've got them flush with the outside of the wheel on both sides, but there's still quite a bit of play. Can you see the bearings moving in there? But it's way back. So now I'm envisioning a puller that needs something like two very small sockets that can push the wheels a little tighter but fit over the end of the axle, so that the axle will actually be protruding slightly. I'm not sure if that's going to be the answer, but that's the first thought that comes to mind. So time to do some disassembly and see if there's anything that I did wrong and messed up, or just what we need to do to correct. So let's get to work. Okay, with the motor out of the body and the box off, straightened out the two tabs, and looking here, can see that those bushings are not seated all the way. So I'm only guessing now that I was not very careful and did not pay close attention when I put it back together. I made sure to get the axle bearings centered, but if the bearing for the pinion was not centered, or if it was centered and slipped out, then as I tightened it down, even though these nuts here and the two that are under the wheels are snug, they were not completely seated, and there's part of the reason for all of that slop, and especially all that slop in the pinion. Can you see the pinion moving? So that means wheels get to come off again, oh joy, and see if we can get everything seated properly and then put back together. So I've got the $8 sink basin, now wheel puller. These tabs were ground down so they'll fit underneath the wheels. The tip here was ground down to be small enough to push on the end of the axle and fit inside. So let's give it a go. Extra fun trying to work with the camera. So I'm loosening enough to get the push pin exactly where it needs to go. Get that up under the wheel. There we go. And push pin exactly on. And just like that, voila. Repeat on the other three. We'll be back shortly. The two wheels on the brush plate side off first, because that gives me access to the four nuts that are holding this plate together. I'm going to see if I can take off the brush plate and if I can move the armature enough to get that pinging gear bushing seated without having to take the other side wheels off. So let's see what happens. Okay, so brush plate is removed, as you can see, and the 4 nuts have been removed. So now the side plate is completely free. Now notice that I did okay. I got the wheel bearings seated properly, the flat spot at the bottom as it should be. But how am I going to do this with one hand? But obviously those bushings are not seated all the way. So let me see what I can do about getting the idler gear, pinion gear, excuse me. See if I can get that bearing set properly so that these plates will close up properly, so that when I snug these nuts back down, it will hold everything where it's supposed to be. Then I can get the wheels to a better tension so that they don't have so much slop either. Stand by. Okay, so I've taken out the rotor, and there's that slot. See that slot in the bushing? And if I get just the right angle for light, at the very bottom, there it is. There's one little tip of metal for that slot to slide on. And I remember working on that as I reassembled it, but somehow in jiggling everything about, it came off and backed itself out. Something else I want to mention is when I did this first build, I also cleaned up the ends of the magnet plates here and on the inside. Just used the Scotch-Brite type pad, but just to make sure there was no oxidation or anything that was going to impede their work. I'm a little surprised how dirty the copper is here, because I had this nice clean and shiny. So after less than an hour's run time, these brushes, there they are, left quite a bit of themselves on the copper contacts. Not sure how normal it is. I'm thinking about, should I change the brushes or I'll just reassemble it. It did run very nicely and very smoothly till the movement got in the way. So I'm going to reassemble this now and get that just finger tight. Snug for sure, but just finger tight. That's all they need. Now we don't want to forget the slotted screw for the bottom of the contactor, because it not only holds the contactor, the brush plate in place, but it also completes a ground. It grounds the silver plate there to the side plate. But I want to share this handy dandy tool that some of you may recognize. It says on the side, Aircraft Specialties, Lapeer, Michigan. I don't even remember where I got this, but it's a spring-loaded slot screwdriver, focus, holding tool. So when I rotate it, holds it in the slotted position. You fit the slot of your screw onto it and press down, which releases the spring, and it snaps and holds the spring, a little off-centered, but even so. So now, fitting it into the hole is a snap or a screw. Once started, can finish it off with a regular screwdriver. And again, snug but not overly tightened. Now, nothing new here. Here's one of the new brushes. Slot side up so the spring can hold on to it. Rotate it a little bit. Lift the spring. Springs in there. Second one. All right, same thing. rotate that slot just a little bit. That spring in there. Okay. And voila. Now you can see right here, there's the goldish, bronze colored shoulder of the bushing centered in its hole. No wiggling. Everything's nice as it should be. Rotates freely. I have to say, when I tore this down, even though I just a few days before I had cleaned everything up, the nice shiny copper was kind of littered with a lot of carbon from the brushes, and I was a little puzzled by that. But apparently, it's rubbing too much, or the brushes were old, and after lubricating them, it softened them up, and they just gave way too much. But it shortened them just enough that we lost the pressure that's going to hold that gear in place. All right, back to regular reassembly. So we're ready to put on some wheels. I'm going to get the vise out, so stand by. Second time of pressing wheels back on. I just want you to see how it can be. Oh, the power bar, I guess you call it, was missing. So using the base of an old lock-on, made a new insulated plate, found a brass strip that was in the parts thing, epoxied it to the plate, and made a new power strip for all the power contacts. So we're going to just start with the rear wheels. Make sure, yeah, and the bushing is all the way in place. About 12 o'clock. Got it started. And so now pretty much the same. Turns. Now I'm feeling resistance there, so I'm going to back off and take a look, see what we have. So axles flush with the wheel. Axles flush with the wheel. Well, there she is on the rail. My first 999 added to the collection. Front truck, rear truck's in place, push rods. The lenses in the front. Happy about that. Nice overall condition. A little paint touch-ups along the way, but we'll get to those. Let's see how she runs. Sounds very smooth, even as it's running. Let's hook her up. So I learned from my good train buddy Benjamin J that the springs holding the brushes to the armature also keep the pressure on the bearing. So when the original brushes wore down enough, they gave up that pressure on the bearing and allowed it to slip back. Replaced the brushes, and we're back in business. Thanks, Ben, for that tip. Just so you know, my rail number 1 is a 6x10 foot oval, 031 on the curves. Today it's being powered by an American Flyer number 5 transformer. It's only a little 50 water, but it's giving us all the juice we need for a smooth run. I really am enjoying these 3/16 rolling stock too. I love the look, they're very smooth running, and they look great matched up with the 999. Well, that's about it for now. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, type them into the comment box below or email me at tbonebush@yahoo.com. Let's have fun with trains. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.